Bonjour classe, aujourd'hui nous allons apprendre le futur simple. Today we will be learning the simple future in French. And merci à Monique Gillis et slideshare.com. And thank you to Monique Gillis and slideshare.com for allowing me to use their PowerPoint, which I have used for many years and changed and made my own. So, le futur simple. When do we use the futur simple, and what can we replace it with if we don't want to use it? Okay, so le futur simple, or the simple future, is used to describe an event that will or shall happen later on, something that's going to happen in the future. Makes sense, right? Now, like in English, there are different ways of talking about future actions. We've already learned one, which is le futur proche, or the near future. That is the configuration that we use to describe an event that is going to happen. Let's see if you remember that. So, le futur proche, if you remember, is using the verb aller, to go, plus the infinitive, like you can see here with jouer, manger, and faire, to say what we are going to do. So we don't change the second verb. We conjugate aller in the present, and we don't change the second verb. So, je vais jouer au foot, tu vas manger une glace, elle va faire du shopping. So that is what you are going to do. That is the near future, what you're going to do, plus the verb and the infinitive. Okay, let's look at a few more examples. Je vais jouer, tu vas écouter la musique, il va faire du vélo, nous allons nager, vous allez finir le lycée, and ils vont visiter la Californie. And you can switch any of those around. Okay, you have aller, which is conjugated in the present tense, and then you keep the er, ir, and re on those verbs to keep them in the infinitive. Okay, we also have je vais jouer, I am going to play. Do you know what all the others mean? See if you can figure those out. And I am going to move on though. Okay, so the futur simple, okay, the simple future. So you already know how to say what you are going to do. Okay, now we are going to learn how to say what you will do. Okay, and this is just a one-word conjugation in French. Okay, in English we use will or shall plus the verb. In French we don't do it that way. Okay, for the futur simple, to say what we will do, we use the infinitive of the verb. So we just saw that with the futur proche. It's the verb before you change it, when you keep the er, ir, or re on there. And then we add the future endings to that verb. So it's just a one-word conjugation. Now there is one catch. We want to end in R. Our stems end in R before we add our endings onto it. So there's a problem if they end in E. So this happens with all our RE verbs. We have to take off that final E before adding the ending. So let's see what these look like. So for example, the stem for voyager is voyager. No change there, that's pretty easy. But the stem for vendre is vendre. Why did it change if it's supposed to be the infinitive? Because that one ends in an E, therefore we have to take off the E. And after we take off the E, we add the futur simple endings. And here they are, okay? Make sure that you write all of these in your notes. You will need these. You will also need to learn them. Okay, so the ending for je is et, for tu is a, for il, elle, or on is a, for nous is on, for vous is et, for ils and elles, for the il and elle pluriel, is on as well. Okay? Now, I want you to look at those verbs, those verb endings in the boot and see if you can recognize those. Did you see that inside the boot, these are just the verb avoir? Okay, for nous and vous, you have to take off that av, the AV. But j'ai, tu as, il a, and ils ont. Okay, ils ont. Okay, so that might help you remember those. But we have to use those on the end of verbs now. Okay, so how does this work when we put these two parts together? Okay, so if I am conjugating voyager for je, I'll have to add an et to it. So I will get je voyagerai. Okay, if I'm conjugating jouer for tu, I have to put that as, the a, on there, and I will get tu joueras. If I'm conjugating il, elle, or on, or I'm conjugating choisir for il, elle, or on, I'll have to add that a, and I will get il choisira. For nous, okay, the new form of téléphoner is nous téléphonerons. Okay, so we'll add that O and S on there. And if I'm conjugating boire, boire, to drink, for vous, okay, I'll get vous boirez. Something happened there. Did you remember to take off the E before adding the ending? Okay? And if I'm conjugating il or elle for vendre, what would that be? Vendre for il and elle, that would be vendront. Something happened there again. Do you know what it was? Yep, we had to take off that final E. So before we move on, let's look at some vocabulary expressions of time. Okay, you know these, but you may have forgotten them. We have demain, we have après, we have ce soir, we have cet après-midi, cet été, ensuite, plus tard, pendant les vacances, le week-end prochain, and l'année prochaine. Now there are other expressions, but I at least want you to go over these. You need to pause the video here and see which ones you don't remember, write those down, and their equivalents in English. So let's try to take these sentences, okay, which are in the present tense, and we are going to express them using the futur simple. And there should not be an E on futur simple. Every time I stop, the spell check puts an E somewhere, okay? So, ce week-end, je reste à la maison. This weekend, I am staying home. Now we're going to want to change it so that it says this weekend, I will stay home, okay? L'année prochaine, je pars en Italie. Next year, I'm leaving for Italy. But we want to change it so that it says next year, I will leave for Italy. Ce printemps, je voyage en Asie. This spring, I'm leaving for Asia. And you want to change it so that it says this spring, I will leave for Asia. And I want you to pause the video and try to put those verbs in the futur simple on your own. And then I will show you the answers. So the answers are: ce week-end, je resterai à la maison. L'année prochaine, je partirai en Italie. And ce printemps, je voyagerai en Asie. So if you got any wrong, see what you did wrong and fix those. Now, like all good things, there are lots of exceptions. So some of our verbs are irregular. They have irregular stems. And here is a list of many of these irregular stems. Okay? So we have être, which is ser, avoir, which is or, aller, which is ir, faire, which is faire, pouvoir, which is pour, savoir, which is sort, vouloir, which is voudra. If you remember je voudrais, I would like, we use the same stem for the conditional. Venir, which is viendre, voir, which is vers, devoir, which is devre. So pause the video here. You will need these irregular stems, so you need to write those down in your notes. So we are really getting almost to the end of this. So let's practice conjugating these verbs. Étudier for nous, aller for je, entendre for tu, lire for vous, avoir for nous, commencer for il, faire for elle, and être for je. Before you pause the video to work on these, make sure that you recognize that there are some irregulars. There are 4 irregulars, and there are also some that you need to check the endings of them and do something before you add the futur simple ending. So pause the video here and try to do these on your own. So for nous, and étudier, we have nous étudierons. For je and aller, we have j'irai. Did you recognize that aller is an irregular? And for tu and entendre, I hope you took off that final E because it ends in an E, and then you'll get tu entendras. And for vous and lire, did you do something to lire? Hopefully you took off that final E before you got vous lirez. And then nous and avoir. I hope you did not write nous avoirons. Avoir is irregular, and it becomes nous aurons. Nous aurons. For il and commencer, il commencera. For elle and faire, hopefully you recognized faire on that list of irregulars, and you put elles feront. And for je and être, I sure hope you didn't write jetterai, because être is irregular and the irregular stem is ser, so it's je serai. Okay? So I have 2 activities for you to do and turn those in for your classwork today. So the first activity is a writing activity. You will use 4 of these expressions, which we have gone over in this video, and you will use the future tense, the future simple, in fact, to write a complete sentence. Okay? If you need more than the subject and the verb to make it a complete idea, please add to it. Okay, so 4 of these and make 4 sentences. You can pause the video here and write down that assignment, and then we will move on to activity 2. So activity 2, activité 2, écrivez que ferez-vous cet été? Dites un minimum de 3 activités et utilisez le futur simple. So you are going to have a glorious summer despite the current situation. Ignore that and think of how glorious your summer will be. And think of 3 activities, and you do not have to use the ones that I put pictured here. That's just to give you some ideas. You're welcome to use them. And you need to write these sentences in the futur simple. When you are done, you can turn in your classwork. Merci, bravo, très bon travail, et à la prochaine.